explain to me where we are now.
What we've done, Russell, is we've come from the front of the administration building. So we've left the front of Leavesden Asylum. We've come down which at the time was Asylum Road. It's now known as College Road, but it changed in 1949. So we've walked down there. We've entered in where everybody would have entered into the asylum back in the 1860s, 1870s, and 1880s. We've come in through the service entrance where the gatehouse would have been. We've turned left. We've just recently passed where we're on the pathway where the original fire station would have been in 1963 when they had their own fire department. What we've done is we've come to a junction in the roadway because in 1932, when they took over the St. Pancras orphanage that was across the road and the two industrial schools that were there, they wanted to train up some of the patients that were here at the hospital. So they decided, right, we're going to take them across the road, but they didn't want to travel all the way across the road with 300-400 people twice daily and everything. So in 1949, just after 1949, about 1950, the NHS decided for safety reasons, we're going to build a subway. So what they've done is they actually dig a subway underneath College Road, which is still here today. So if you want to follow me, we'll go take a look at it.
Yeah. All right, so can I just clarify it? Has this just been basically filled in, or you could literally quite get under?
What we discovered, without the knowledge of my employer at the time, is we were curious because in 1949, when they did this, there was a story that they actually allowed some of the patients to paint murals along the side of the walls going into the subway, going underneath the road. So we thought, well, that would be great if we could actually find that. So what an associate of mine did, we got some shovels one day and we actually did some digging, and you can see the hole is still there. And what we've done is we actually have found some of the original paintings that are on the side of the walls. Unfortunately, they just filled the ends in, so what we believe is if we did dig down far enough, we could get in there to the point where we could clear it away a little bit, and with some lights and some photography equipment, we could record what are the paintings down there. We haven't been able to do that yet. A lot of paperwork involved in doing something that much of an excavation. An archaeological dig in this park takes a lot of time to convince people to allow you to do. But you can see the subways here. It would have handled 200 to 500 people every day coming back and forth right underneath College Road. It was here for right up until 1994, where they did just fill in the two ends and everything. It's the size of about 50 meters in length, and it's a ramp structure, goes all the way underneath the road. So that's how they got people back and forth. And if we want to go from here, I can show you where one of the original wards were.
Yes, please. I'd really appreciate it.
Let's go.
Thank you for the patience.
Where we are right now, Russell, would have been the very first building, very first ward that Leavesden Hospital would have had on this side of the park. There were two sides to the Leavesden Hospital. This would have been the men's wards over here, and then right across from us would have been the women's wards. They were three stories tall. Each floor had 60 patients, 180 patients per ward, per building, and there would have been 6 buildings for both of them, so 12 times 180, and that's how many people were housed here when they first opened. Now where we are, we're standing right approximately where the very first men's wards would have been, and this would have had the floors of kiwi, kestrel, and kingfisher. And we also believe that this is where the people that really needed to be secluded from the rest of society, from the rest of the hospital, would have been kept. We also believe that this would have been the location where Aaron Kosminski would have been kept while he was here at Leavesden Hospital. So all the buildings were connected by catwalks. It took over 35 minutes to feed everybody from the 3 different kitchens that they had in the hospital. So it was a very large location, very much a lot of people lived here. There was over 2,400 people living and working here at all times. So they had to take 42 acres of local farmland just to feed everybody. So that's what had been going on right here.
Wow, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. So we can see this is literally where Aaron Kosminski would have been housed when he was incarcerated in Leavesden Asylum, and obviously now no longer here, but this would have been the location. Thank you. Okay, so we've walked to the rear of Leavesden Asylum now, and Martin, explain to me where we are here.
This is one of the areas of the hospital that would have been the farthest north of everything, so this would have been out towards where they did all the gardening and everything. So the last building you have before you get into the 42 acres they harvested to feed everybody at the hospital would have been the Irish ward, which is also known as the isolation wing. Now back in those days, in the 1860s, 1870s, if you had any of the most known common contagious diseases, or you thought you had a contagious disease, plus you were committed to a mental mental facility, you would have ended up here. The nurses would have trained in the schools here on site for about 2 years. If you were assigned to the isolation wing, you would have lived in a nursing facility just behind us here on the other side of the wood line, and you would have worked here and you would have gone back and forth, never going back into general population, because if you're exposed to any kind of contagious diseases, they wouldn't let you back into general population. We do have one recorded record here of a nun who actually did that for about 37 years until she retired. So this is just the last building that you would see before you got into the very deep farming area of the hospital.
So isolation wing, so you're looking at things like smallpox.
Smallpox, anything that they didn't know about, rubella, anything they thought was contagious. We also, on site here, they also did have 2 tuberculosis wings, because back in those days, the treatment they thought for tuberculosis or any lung-borne diseases was to get them out, into the fresh air, get them out into the country, and 3 miles north of Watford was considered way out into the country back in those days. So that's where they'd bring them, to be treated for things like tuberculosis and that. So.
Okay. And the cholera outbreak.
We had an alleged cholera epidemic, which I investigated a couple of years ago, and did come to find out that they did request in 1898 a sum of money to research the water system that fed the hospital, because that's allegedly where the cholera epidemic came from.